Thank you very much, Professor Nishida, for those words of wisdom. We're very grateful that you could honor our invitation and be here today. We look forward to hosting you again next year. First up is our first speaker of the day. He is an expert in sustainable product and market development in subsistence economies, like India and some countries in Africa. He is also a Diane and Stephen Miller Endowed Professor of Business Administration here at the University of Illinois. Please welcome Professor Madhu this morning.
No problem. Excuse me for my voice. I just wanted to first of all say how proud I am to be standing there for many reasons. But we at the university with leadership like that we have from our chancellor and our provost with the visioning process, which is really about global challenges, which is closely related to the topic here. With colleagues like Paul McNamara, who is a pioneer in this area, and Darcy, who has pioneered international immersion for our MBA program. I'm so proud of them as well. All the guests here, thank you so much for taking the effort. But I have to tell you, I'm so proud because so many of the people involved here are my students. They're my students, and I can reel off names, and I'm really proud of that. But I have to tell you, I'm very humbled that I've been asked to speak about Africa. Africa is my third home. I was 50 years old when I first went to Africa, very late. I've been made 3 trips, and by the way, don't worry, I'm only 51 now. So I've made 3 trips since. If my mother is India and my father is the US, my brothers and sisters are in Africa. What a wonderful place to go to, the most welcoming people in the world. But here's the good news, my students are getting there in their early 20s. My son got there when he was 18. So the world is getting smaller. So that's something I wanted to mention. I really put the story together in the last couple of days, so I should thank you for making me put the story together. And I'll tell you the story, and then certainly we'll have some time for insights. And if you would excuse me, I'm going to go back. My wife is unwell, so I'm going to go back and come back for the question and answer session. So please allow me that, and I know you will. I want to start with some images, and this is an image from Mozambique of a woman looking for firewood, and it just brings out the interconnection between the economic with resources, the environmental when you use firewood, burn firewood, and essentially lung ailments because of indoor smoke, and the social when you send girls out to look for firewood, and less firewood because of deforestation. So I used to keep using this slide till I met an elderly woman in a marketplace in Tanzania who was very apologetically selling firewood. And she said, I didn't cut any trees. I just picked up what was already in the ground. And I made sure I didn't cut a green tree. And I asked her, how long does it take you to look for firewood today? And she said, it's 5-6 hours a day, whereas it used to be a couple of hours a day. So this went from being a slide in a presentation to a real story for me. Many other images, I'll just go through them just to give you a sense of some of the images that I see, whether it's a school in so many different forms, in classrooms. You hear of a number of wonderful solutions as well, and it's great to see Tom here, so who's been involved in this as well. This is a very poignant image for me, and I think of this is a clinic. And this is a health center in Zimbabwe, desertification in Kenya, students and study in rural Africa, drinking water issues, drinking water sources in a number of places in Africa. And this is Africa as well, right? This is Johannesburg, and this is Johannesburg. This is very familiar to those of us who are from India or China and so on. This contrast between development on the one side and then the nature of the development and its consequences on the other side, whether it's environmental or social and so on. So what we have done is we have taken a bottom-up approach to looking at the intersection between poverty and marketplaces. So, I'd hate to stand here and act like, we are the only ones studying poverty, which is a ridiculous statement. But we do something unique, which is we study the intersection of poverty and marketplaces, but we don't study it from a macroeconomic perspective. We don't necessarily start with organizations on the ground, but we start with people and their lives and how they function as consumers and entrepreneurs and their life circumstances. But we don't stay there. We try to then say, what does it mean for developing solutions, for designing business plans, and so on. So that's what we do with the subsistence marketplaces approach. The one thing I'll emphasize is the word marketplace. That means a lot to me. I don't use the word markets, I use the word marketplaces because it's a different mindset to go in and understand that people have been engaging in marketplaces forever. Whereas the idea of markets, I'm worried it triggers this notion that I already have the solution. I already have the products, I'm looking for new markets. So that's why we use the word marketplaces. The idea is to understand these pre-existing marketplaces as a way to then design solutions for them. We have learned a lot by doing and failing. We obviously have done a lot of research. We started right here in Central Illinois with people of low literacy and low income. We believe in deep engagement in a few places around the world. We have developed courses at all levels. We reach about 800 students at the University of Illinois, and most recently we have a Coursera offering where there were 9,000 students around the world, and we had a project track there. And there were students in war-torn areas who were using some of our insights, and that was very humbling to see. We learned more from them than they ever learned from us. So we have a lot of different offerings and so on, but we've also learned by doing. And something probably closest to my heart is what I call marketplace literacy, which is a way to help people living in poverty be better customers and to be entrepreneurs as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So we've learned, we've failed, and so certainly my ideas of business comes from that. I run it like a business in the sense it's my business. The revenue is not monetary, but it's a different type of revenue. So I've dealt with transitioning people out, which is the toughest thing to do in a business. I've dealt with seeing if I'm getting value for my money, for my investment. But at the same time, it's very social in that it's about the qualitative impact and so on. So that's where we started. And on the bottom left, you see our first trip to Tanzania with the Maasai woman, and my wife would have wondered, how is it that you're always in a hurry, but you spend 5 hours just sitting there, right, in the communities, and I love doing that. If you give me the opportunity to sit with a group of poor women anywhere in the world, that's the most captivating for me because I learn so much from them, and they're often the backbone of that society, whether I've done it in Mexico or Argentina or wherever you say. I learn a lot just by sitting with them and finding out how their lives have changed. Where do they get their water? How about health? What do they do for health and so on? This journey has taken me to many places. The top left is a village hit by the tsunami, and I just put that up there because I was there, and it seemed like the entire village was there, and my students were there with me, and they explained what happened during the tsunami, and where they found the bodies and so on. And at one point, I looked at them. I looked at my 30 students and staff, and I thought, this is worth anything. This meeting of the cultures is worth any effort for my students because it's so powerful for me. So that's what we do as well. We have deep engagement in a few places around the world. And that's all, I really believe in depth of engagement, and by that I mean research, teaching, and social initiatives, with none of these being a means to an end. So the community service we do is not a means for us to be doing research. It stands as a separate promise, and that I think is very important as well. We have interactions with a lot of different entities, and you will see large companies there as well. We didn't start off with this in mind, but they find value in what we do. So if we go to a John Deere and say, you make tractors in Moline, start with a 2-acre farmer in East Africa. Start bottom up. Let's see where your top-down meets that bottom up. That's our entire philosophy. We are not saying it can just be bottom up. We are saying that, but we are saying we are not bottom up enough in general, whether it's in the development world or the business world and so on. That's why they come to us. And we have sustained projects with them. And on occasion, thanks to the excellent work of our students, many of whom are here, we are even seeing projects trickle down to commercialization. It's a trickle. I don't want to overstate it, but you see a lot of different entities up here. We are also involved in service learning, and there's some examples. But our purpose in going to Africa, our purpose is where, first of all, with the Safe Global Water Institute in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, they have a focus on water and sanitation. And so this was about creating interdisciplinary teams with students to go there. And then this is also about my secret or public agenda of marketplace literacy as well. So this is where it started off, where I spent a day with the Maasai tribe near Arusha. And it was a wonderful day, and I didn't even feel the time pass, and I felt that, this is a theme as well, where it doesn't seem like time owns us there. It feels like the people own the time. So they kind of really, it's very refreshing to be there from that point of view as well. People are very generous in telling us what they do. And in the evening, it was getting dark, and we were off the off-road and the off-road at this point. And there were 30 or 40 Maasai youth whom we met in the evening. And one of them looked at me and said, you're from a great university. Please help us. We are living in a lot of poverty. And that was a very powerful moment for me a little over a year ago. And the jury is still out on how well we have responded or are going to respond. And I told this young man, I said, in order to help you, I first need to be a student. And I cannot be a professor. I need to be a student. I need to learn from you and your rich culture and your way of living and so on. And I also used a very bad metaphor. I said, if you know just the trees, you can't negotiate the forest. Keeping in mind that I don't care if I live 10 lifetimes, I'll never negotiate the forest the way this young man can. But my point was, we want you to learn the larger marketplace on the main road so that you can then engage in that marketplace and bring back some resources as well to try to alleviate your poverty to some degree. So that stayed with us, and then we went back in June, and this was an interdisciplinary team. And by the way, I also have to mention that while we were doing this, the elders were there, and this person at the bottom left, he's a leader in that community. And it's amazing how much he cares about the community. I find that, to me, it's a great source of honor that he has affection for me, and we've built a relationship as well. And I always wonder, the first time I went, what were the people thinking, right? So many people come and go, right? And perhaps the second time we went, people said, aha, because so many people come and go, so many promises are made, right? So I think the second time must have been more powerful, and then there has been a third time as well, and so we're trying to build this relationship. I also want to point out the person on the bottom right, his name is Mr. Kupaza. He is the director of Oikos East Africa, and I've met so many people in Tanzania like him. They are amazing. They have experienced poverty, they have grown up in poverty, and they are truly entrepreneurial in the best sense of the word, in terms of combining a soft heart with a tough mind and really caring about the social and the commercial. And so, and I want to tell the audience that we have our 5th Subsistence Marketplaces Conference right here in Nai Hotel, June 13th to 15th, where some of our students will be presenting as well. And what I'm doing is I'm getting 3 people from India and 3 people from Africa who have experienced poverty. We tend to talk to ourselves in some of these conferences, who have grown up in poverty and today are really amazing social entrepreneurs, because I just want the audience here to interact with them and learn from them, and he is going to be here as well, so I just wanted to mention that. And this is a very big connection I would like to make for the Africa Business Club, because I think getting involved in projects, actual projects where you hope for some impact, would be a very good way to go. So this is just, this is a boma, this is one of the households in the boma, these are the animals there and so on. This is a slightly different picture. It's an entrepreneur who runs this poultry business. This is a different tribe. This is from the Meru tribe over there. So what are we trying to do there? So let me talk about marketplace literacy very briefly. What we're trying to do there is we're basically saying it's not enough to know what to buy or what to sell. You need to know how, and you need to know why you do those things. That's what is distinctive about marketplace literacy. And so that's why we went there. And what I did is I just set up a shop. And this was in my second trip there. I just set up a shop, and we worked with a group of women and a group of youth as well. And I just cheated people as a first way of getting them involved in thinking about the marketplace. marketplace. And we have to understand that there are people there who first saw the marketplace in their lives, the main road, the marketplace on the main road, when they were 50 years old. And one of the interesting things I observed was how rudimentary people's skills were, how innocent people were, really is the best way to say it. And so I tried a lot of different things, role plays, products that they're good at buying, products they're bad at buying, and you can see some of their responses there. Obviously we had double translation and so on, to Swahili and then Maasai. And then I just wanted to play a little bit of this for you to see what we did. Let me see if I can get some volume here. Sorry. Yeah, now let me just see if I can get some volume, because I just want people to hear the translation. No, pictures. Yeah. No problem. No worries. But I just wanted to show you this. And this is with a group of Maasai women, and there is a translator there as well. It's a matter of exposure, right? And so basically, what I decided at that point is, gosh, I just want to focus on helping people to be customers first before we talk about entrepreneurship. We did a couple of exercises, and I was very, very happy that one of our students who's right here, Maria Jones, was able to go there, and she spent a month there building on what we did, and she did an incredible job with that. And that kept the momentum going. In the meanwhile, we are working with a partner, and we want to drive the process, but we want to be respectful as well. And my time scale often tends to be very fast. But I realized they have to bring their organization along as well. And then when we went back in February, I went and interacted with the people first, and the conversation was different. So when I asked people to come up with business ideas, they would say, we want you to teach us a business idea. So the notion of a business idea was difficult last June. But this time the conversation was different, and we had women tell us for the first time we engaged in income generating activity, and I was able to buy a pillow and a mattress or feed my children better. Two young men said, I go to the buyer's market, he goes to the seller's market, we coordinate, we call each other before we buy. And so the entire conversation was different. To me, it was very heartwarming, but it was funny as well, that we did so little for them. But what they did with that little was just amazing to see in engaging in the marketplace and so on. And I'm very happy to say now that that organization has launched the program. I don't want to give any big impressions. We are yet to get to our first 2 zeros, which is 100, but we are approaching it. But I really like to build small and go deep. I think that's also the way to scale, in my opinion. The deeper you go into a community and the more you learn to fail at the small level, I think the better off we are at then scaling, whether it's scaling radially or whatever it may be. So that's kind of the story of that part of it. So what are some interactions that stayed? You're from a great university, all of us, we are very poor. There are basic needs and there are aspirational needs. And clearly the aspiration comes from seeing others, seeing sometimes members of one's own tribe doing things differently, but it is a very important negotiation where you have your rich culture, but at the same time you want to engage in the marketplace. So it's not just basic needs, there are these aspirations as well. One of the things I want to point out in this regard is the strange thing I found here compared to other settings is that the youth, in terms of their skill sets, when we started off, were behind the women. Usually the youth have a lot more potential at that stage, that's what we've seen in other settings. But then I think once you give them the opportunity and the exposure, it becomes a different story in terms of how they build up and then move forward. If this is 1,500 shillings and this one is 100 shillings, which one will you buy? And this is me cheating them. And I was giving them a ridiculously high price for a larger package. And if I have enough money, I'll buy the big one as it will last longer. Typically in the US, we find with low literacy people say, I'll buy the cheapest one. But here it's like, I'll buy the longest, I'll buy the largest. And why? Because this is the supply. This is the road to the marketplace. And it goes on and on and on. And it's just amazing. And so what do? I go there, I better get the big one because it's going to take me a lot of effort to get back there. So it makes sense. And if this is a road, this is that value chain, supply chain, and so on. And I have to say, just moving on this road is so difficult. But there is a time when the people who live there have an advantage over our vehicles. This time there was a flood. There was a kind of a creek that blocked the road, but they were able to cross it, we couldn't. So we had to go all the way around and spend 3 more hours just to get there. But these are the last miles. We talk about the last mile. In India, we talk about the last mile and others. These are the last miles, and they could be 20, 30, 40 miles. In trying to reach the solution is not for us, it is for them. This happened, and by the way, this is not our picture, but this is of adding chemicals to water, and this happened in an interview. The solution is for us, it's not for them. New technology will be more restrictive than what we've had because there is no relationship between the technology and how we live. And the point I want to make here is the culture, right? In the University of Illinois, I may create a sustainable technology. Who cares? I mean, I am trying to make my next meal, and unless it helps me to sustain the things I want to sustain, who cares? My good friend in Elgin near Chicago makes solar ovens. And in Uganda, he was basically told, don't come back, because your product causes wife abuse. Why? Solar ovens, the women used it at 3 p.m. in the afternoon when the sun was out. At 10 p.m. at night, the husband showed up, and they were angry because the food was cold. And the point he makes with that is that he says it's a culture, not the technology. It's obviously both. But unless we are willing to go to that level of understanding the marketplace, which is, by the way, true for any business, I think, but much more true in a setting that you are fundamentally unfamiliar with so many different constraints, I don't think you're going to get it. And that's what we mean by the bottom-up approach. And by the way, in other countries as well, I would like to take people who run NGOs, the CEOs of NGOs, and I'd like to tell them, spend a week in your community. Get past the people who are giving you PowerPoint presentations, nothing wrong with PowerPoint presentations, to the people in the community, talk to them directly. So that's something I would certainly say is very important. Sanitation at a school, and no paper, no water, yet understanding sanitation. I can speak freely about my home country, my motherland, India, by saying that one of the things you notice, sanitation is a huge problem there. It is culturally a problem as well, in terms of just people's mindset, and you can't blame them if they don't have the facility. But I remember one interview here in Africa where I asked one person living in abject poverty, I said, you know what, I went to one of these toilets, I would not use it, right? So I'd rather go outside, what do you think? He said, no. And I said, what will you do if somebody is going outside? He said, I'll go and tell that person, look, here's what happens. The flies will sit there and they will spread it all around. And this is somebody in abject poverty who is so open. But obviously the other side of it is water, paper, just the very basic subsistence, kinds of things. And so that's the other side here as well. And so the issue of local sustainability, is very important here as well. I only pick what has already fallen from the tree, and this also is not one of our images, but again, this brings out the norms, the cultural norms. People live their environment. I can't take the garbage, put it in the garbage bin here and say the University of Illinois sorts it, I won't see it again. People live their environment, we see this around the world. They know that if they cut the forest too much, 6 months from now, there's not going to be any forest left or firewood and so on. So people live the environment, and it's not an abstract concept for them. It's not something where they can move along and so on. This is a really cruel thought that I had, sitting in a community, a semi-concrete structure where people were making 6-7 trips in the morning for 2 hours to get their water, and the same thing in the evening. So you can imagine what's being spent in terms of time, but the water has fluoride in it to a dangerous level. And I sat there thinking, I wish they didn't have that water because of the harm that it does. It's a very cruel thought, right? But that's a thought that came to my mind as I was sitting and doing this interview. And our students are working on the water and sanitation projects as well through our class, and they have learned quite a bit as well about this particular issue. And it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to see this. As I already mentioned, time belongs to us, we don't belong to time. There's a very interesting way to look at things. Very briefly, I would say that, understanding life circumstances is incredibly important, so I would urge people who want to do business to go to the ground level and start there. And my trick in India has been to essentially have a team of people who are from subsistence, who grew up in subsistence. It's them and me, and that's one way to think about it as well. Understanding life circumstances, envisioning needs. Designing things optimally is relatively easy, right? Compared to designing for a setting you don't understand, where people live in a way that you don't understand. You can design for my kitchen, you know where your product fits in my kitchen or my living room. But how do you design for the floor of a hut? It could be a stove, it could be a water filter where there are children running all around, and you have this nice, neat, perfect design which takes up half their space. How are they going to use it? And by the way, people will use it in ways you don't anticipate and they don't anticipate. So that's a big part of the challenge here as well. As I mentioned, there are basic needs, but there are aspirational needs as well. And you can see it in a number of educations and aspirational needs. Nutrition for my children so they don't suffer the way I do is an aspiration. So we talk about marketing being about needs and wants. It needs to be about aspirations. And then obviously a number of things in terms of how we design for, I would call it almost like you have to user-proof your product for the kind of usage situations and how harsh the usage is going to be. You have to assume it's going to be for many different purposes, cross purposes, multiple purposes. You may think that it's a fertilizer for your field, it's going to be used to transport products to the marketplace and so on. You may think it's a detergent, it'll be used to kill ants and so on. So, and customization. It's a very, very human one-on-one kind of world where people are interacting with each other, and so everybody is going to want to customize a product. And that's an opportunity for a business to empower the local entrepreneur as a livelihood opportunity, to add that value, because a local entrepreneur knows the families and knows how to customize for the families. So I have seen businesses who think they are bottom-up because they say, oh, we have these self-help groups we work with. That's not bottom-up enough in terms of involving people. And this is very difficult, and that's why I'm saying you need to go deep in order to really fail at that small level, and then understand from that failure that the things you have to do to build relationships and then scale from there. But if you do it well, people will help you through word of mouth to really take the message across. But you need to be very sustained. Many people have come and gone, so you need to be there for the long haul, and you need to have a sustained message of who you are and what are you in it for. And so that's what I would say. And obviously I'm kind of extrapolating from my nonprofit as well. You can't have you have to leverage obviously the existing infrastructure. You have to think, you can't think just the product. You have to think what goes around it. So if I am deprived on multiple fronts and you tell me about this water filter, you have to educate me about the water, right? And you have to provide that education-related infrastructure. And you have to think about adding on to existing products. You can't say, well, I'm going to have a device and a microfinancing plan for everything I come up with. There's not enough money there for that. And there are not enough devices for everything. You have to leverage what's already out there. And so when you think about products, we have to think betterment of life circumstances. When we think about relationships, it's the human dimension. The human and the economic is all blurred. It takes resources to compartmentalize our lives. And that's why I have a den, and then I have my personal space and all that. Everything is blurred in this setting. So you can't, people, when they think economic, they think human. They say, hey, I need to make a living, you need to make a living. That's not fair. So you have to figure out how to get people's trust and how to be fair. And then markets are about the social milieu, how to negotiate the social milieu. And I believe that being good for the community is a common denominator that can be built on when you negotiate the social milieu, that different stakeholders will agree on. And so I would say that we can push our notions of business models in terms of doing well and doing good even further. And I would argue you can take it to the extreme and say, in some cases, in many cases I hope, for these reasons, unless you do good for the individual and the community, you cannot do well. And by that I don't mean you're a charitable organization. No, you're not. You are not a charitable organization, but by good I mean as it relates to your product. And that's something that has to be kind of imbibed by the organization. As it relates to your product, what's good for the community and so on. And businesses do that all the time, but here you have to be much more explicit in incorporating that, and that's what I would say. So let me just, I know I've paid no attention to the time marker, so it's time to stop, but I just wanted to close by saying that it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm really, it's a privilege. It's been an absolute privilege to stand here in front of you and talk about my third home. Thank you for listening, and I will certainly come back for the Q&A. And one more time, I apologize to the rest of the speakers for my family situation. I'll come right back. Okay? Thank you very much.